Welcome to Fishing for Bees. This is my YouTube channel. I'm swarm catching and beekeeping. Today is November 12th. It's about 48 degrees, 3 o'clock in the afternoon or so. If you're new to the channel, welcome. A little bit about me is I've never purchased bees. I believe that in most parts of the United States, a hobby beekeeper doesn't need to purchase bees. I'm not against purchasing bees or queens or anything like that. I just simply haven't had to. Swarm catches keep replenishing the minimal losses that we have in this yard. And we move from our other yard up to this one for production when needed, and anything extra I've given away in the spring. I've given away 10 frame colonies, so if any of that interests you, please like and subscribe. If you're interested in swarm catching, I have a Facebook group called Honeybee Swarm Catching, honeybee being all one word, swarm catching the next two words. 60,000 members all over the country. It works like a heat map in the spring, so when swarms start popping off, people notify us. You're required, if you're notifying or speaking of a swarm happening, to put the city and the state, or at least the zip code. There needs to be an indication of where the swarm is located so that people in the area say, hey, it's starting. And it's worked really well. It's been going for a couple years. It's a great group, not because of me, but because of the membership and the moderators. And we approve every post, as I mentioned, so there's no spam, there's nothing. So Honeybee, one word, swarm catching, the next two words. Check it out on Facebook. So today we're up here and we're gonna work on quilt boxes and moisture control. This is part 2 of a video on moisture control. I'm gonna speak more of it. Obviously, it's gonna be more geared towards the way that I achieve moisture control during the winter. There's many, many ways. This is my preferred way, and I'll go over why I like it. But do your research. There's many ways to achieve the same goal. So these boxes are just simply a medium super with a screen in it, which works as a built-in feeder shim, and an upper entrance installed already. Vents. This goes above your colony. Your inner cover goes on top. Okay? So your colony is living underneath there, producing heat. The heat produces condensation and moisture. The moisture rises to the top, meets the bedding. These are coffee bags with large wood chips in it. It meets the bottom side of this bedding and gets absorbed. If you have just an inner cover on it and no absorbing material, it's going to hit that inner cover. It's going to, the moisture in the air, the warm, moist air, is going to hit that inner cover. It's going to condensate and it's going to rain down on your bees. Wet bees or dead bees. I'm more concerned about moisture in a colony than I am heat. Bees are built to handle the cold. They go into a state of torpor where it's, you know, a kind of a hibernation. So they are able to produce the heat. Your goal is to keep them dry and retain the heat. I no longer wrap anymore. I just found it to be too much work and not necessary. My success rate in this yard has been as high as high 80s, and my lowest success rate in both yards, I should say, has been high 70%. So high 70% survival rate, high 80% survival rate over the years using these quilt boxes. Now, why do I like the quilt boxes? Well, first of all, if I decide that I don't want to use them anymore, I just simply knock out this screen, plug these holes, and I'll have an upper entrance honey super. I don't see me ever doing that, but it's certainly an option. The equipment is dual purpose. I also feed above my inner cover, and when I do that, I need to shield it from the other bees around. So these work as a shield. I flip them upside down. My feeder's inside here above my inner cover. They have access only through the inner cover, and this shields it from pests or other bees getting it to it from the outside. So they're dual purpose for me. People use a lot of things for moisture control, and I've seen foam board. Foam board works dual purpose as far as I understand it. It works as a moisture control, so it absorbs the moisture and it retains heat. I'm not a big fan of that. I'm not a big fan of anything in my colonies that is man-made. I try and limit it as much as possible. If you've seen my other videos, I don't even use much plastic foundation. I'm forced to use it in my honey supers because they'll blow out during extraction. But these colonies you see here, I don't think there's one in here that has more than 3 plastic foundation. Everything else is starter strip. So I give the bees to do their own freedom, but I don't like the plastics. I'm concerned of microplastics in the environment. The more and more I read, the more and more I get concerned. They're finding microplastics in the human brain. I don't know. So that being said, just like with my mite controls, my mite procedures, they tell me I can do both of the mite procedures I do with my honey supers on. I don't. These are the same organizations, the same government agencies that tell us that the amount of neonicotinoids that they're spraying in our fields is good for us. It's perfectly fine. It's acceptable. So they're going to tell me that I can treat with my honey supers on with these chemicals. They're wrong about the neonicotinoids. What else are they wrong about? The reason why I don't like the foam boards is, first, I've seen bees chew on it. I don't have much experience that I've seen it in people's videos where the bees chew on it. I don't like that, obviously, for many reasons. Also, we're told that these foam insulations that you use in your wall that people are cutting down and putting on their colonies are fine to use in our home, that the off-gassing from the plastics and whatever that's used to make these is so minimal that it's okay for humans to breathe. Again, these are the same agencies that tell us that the neonicotinoids that are being sprayed in the fields are perfectly fine. And we know they're not. They're causing cancer. I'll try not to go off on a tangent. So in your home, they allow for these foam board insulation to be in your home and it won't cause any ill effects. Your face isn't directly next to it, breathing it for 4 months, like your bees will be. So they work great. I see beekeepers using them and they have great success with them. These are just concerns in my mind that I err on the side of caution. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying I don't know if there is, so I'm not going to use it. I'm going to use burlap. These are rinsed. These are coffee bags. These are food grade. These are pine wood chips. And I achieved the same goal. Obviously, these are much more difficult to store than, you know, if I had 8 foam boards, it wouldn't even be 3 of these as far as storage. Fits in a corner real nice. And then 8 of the quilt boxes would be about that tall. So, to each his own. I'm not against it. I just simply don't do it. And this channel is about what I do. This channel shows all my achievements and failures. I used to get a lot of grief in the beginning when I spoke of things like this. You know, why are you using such an archaic dinosaur method? Why don't you switch over to more modern techniques? Because I like them. I think they look better. And I like my success rate with them. It's what I started with, and we are creatures of habit. So if you're using foam board and you're having great success, don't switch. So we're going to talk and work at the same time. We're going to get some things done. I just wanted to give an explanation of why I use them, and now I'll show you how we get them on. So a couple other things I want to touch on during the winter. You want to make sure that your colonies are tilted towards the front, and sometimes I even tilt them pretty extreme. I put a level on them. I judge by the level how far I want to shim it and tilt them forward. The reason for that being is any condensation that does come to the top condensate will flow forward and out the front door. Also, you're going to have condensation on the sides and in the front here on the front panel, and all of that's going to flow forward on the bottom board if it makes it to the bottom board and right out your front door. Get that moisture out of there, help them. If you tilt them backwards and you have puddles sitting in the back of your colonies, that moisture is going to affect their health all winter long. Always tilt them forward. Another nice thing, I used to just put wood chips in here. I'd put a single layer of burlap down, not a burlap pillow, put wood chips on top, and then I was able to dig in it and look. The reason why I really enjoy these now is it's just a simple, when it's on top of there, and I can do this even on the coldest days, see if they're in that top box. The other thing is this bottom side gets really, really wet. on your super strong colonies early in the winter. They start to die off and it gets a little bit more, but really early in the winter, I mean, some of these are completely soaked. I just take it, flip it, put the wet side to the top by these vent holes. The air will flow through, dry it, and I'm good to go. So just a couple more reasons why I like them. Another thing that I have not mentioned, and it came from a viewer years ago, was the reason why I use 4 rocks. Originally I just put 1 rock right in the center of my colony, and it might even have been bricks back then. I like the way the rocks look. I do things because I like the way they look. I like the way the quilt boxes look and they're effective, and I like the way the rocks look for weight on top. But I had a rock sitting in the center of my colony. I just used 1. And a viewer said, you know, you're going to cause warping of your lid doing that. And that made total sense. Now these are an interesting lid. I got them locally. There's some type of composite. I'm not even sure what they are, to be honest with you. But they don't warp as much. So then I switched to 4 rocks on each corner. Keeps it down nice, and it also stops the lid from wanting to warp, right? During the winter, all this moisture coming up, you're going to get warpage and bubbling and everything like that. So that's the reason for the 4 rocks. And I have my painter's tape. You have to remember, when I pop this inner cover off, I'm going to pop the inner cover off. It's going to go on top of this. Then this lid's going to go on top. This is going to now be where the inner cover was. I'm breaking that propolis seal. So I'm going to tape them up, give them a little bit of help. They probably will not get to that all winter long as far as resealing that propolis seal. But this painter's tape makes all the difference to them. It's just a little effort on your part, and it goes a long way. So here we go. Got a smoker lit. I don't anticipate them being in the top, but they could be. Still have my shims as far as a washer. Might still keep them on, give a little bit more ventilation, but it's probably not necessary because you got all this ventilation here. And if you use the entrance disc, that's even more. The entrances are going to be closed for now. I just don't want any robbing or anything like that. I don't think these bees are up in the top boxes yet. At least all of them aren't in the top boxes. We'll give you a view. A little cold, but I think we're okay. So here you go. Colony 5, good healthy colony. They're up here. I want to do this quick, so just a little look. They're already coming out a little angry. So we're not going to play around with them. I could see some gaps in the way this box is fitting. So definitely some painter's tape's a good idea. The weight, because these are super light, and if we get, man, we had winds the other day. If we get any more of those winds like we've had, they can blow this right off. There are times that I ratchet strap my lids down, but I'm going to be feeding with Hive Alive fondant here soon. So I don't want to have to remove all that stuff. I'm probably going to switch things up this year with the Hive Alive fondant. It's probably going to go on earlier, likely in this yard. I'm anticipating that I'm going to have some issues with time. So I'm going to put extra feed on them. It's not going on today because that stuff dries out. And I'm also working on a way for them to have easier access to it. So stay tuned for that. Got a pretty cool idea that I'm working on, and we'll see how it works. You know, some of the ideas work, some of them don't. I leave an overlapping seam in the back, so meaning I go, you know, like 3/4 of the way with tape. And then when I finish it off, I go 3/4 to the other side. That overlapping seam just makes it easier for when I need to get in here in winter to apply fondant and stuff. One more here, then I'll finish them off. We'll come back and talk. I already got a bee up here, and one that is not happy with my presence. I was a little concerned at the entrance of this one because they had a yellow jacket, and I'm going to show you right now why this is so important. As I said before, your stronger colonies can produce a lot of moisture. This inner cover is soaked. The one next door was not. Now they're drinking that water, and that's a good thing. And it's too early in the season for it to rain down on them and cause too much problems with freezing and everything. But that just goes to show you how much moisture the bees are producing. The bees are producing moisture. They're also drying any late season feeding that you've done. You know, the nectar, that's moisture. Moisture control. In my opinion, this kills more bees than heat. This one was full of bees all at the top. When taping these empty, very light quilt boxes, it's easier to already have your weight and everything on there, so your inner cover, then your cover, then your weight, so that they don't slide around, especially if you're by yourself. They can be a little finicky. So here's the last one. All of them have bees in them, some various stages. So this whole journey started with swarm catching. As I've said, I have never purchased bees, I've never purchased a queen, I've never split a colony. By no means am I saying that swarm catching is easy. My first year I caught nothing. And I was really discouraged. There's bees in here. This is the weakest one out of all of them. So that being said, this would be one that you really don't want to play with. You see, I'm not inspecting. I'm taking a peek. I'm not pulling frames. Not being disruptive. This time of year, bees are not happy. They don't want you in there. They could be completely different bees than they were in the middle of the summer when resources are plenty. So, to back up, swarm catching is not easy. It was not for me. I'm in Michigan. Certainly other parts of the country, it is easy. Or easier, you know, warmer climates and stuff like that. But for me, it wasn't easy. Don't give up. In the winter, and even during the season, I've spoken to a lot of people on the phone. I really enjoy it. I really like talking bees. I like coming up with a plan and helping somebody come up with a plan, or sometimes listening to somebody's plan and saying, go for it. If you're interested in any of that, there's places you can find me. As I said, I have the Facebook group. You'll see me in there. I'm the admin. And, you know, I have a presence on Facebook also, you know, Fishing for Bees, Instagram, Fishing for Bees, and obviously here on YouTube. So if you want to talk about bees, if you want to talk about swarm catching, we'll just schedule a time. And I prefer to talk on the phone instead of texting or chatting, you know, via texting. There's a lot to go over, and if we're able to communicate back and forth and soundboard off of each other as we go through the conversation, I find that to be a lot easier, less time consuming, and quite frankly a lot more enjoyable, having that one-on-one contact with viewers. And I really appreciate all of you. I thank you for coming along for the ride, and I hope your bees are well.